what's going to be happening is we are starting with a black piece of paper. Eventually, we're going to be getting a bottle of glue. And we should also be having a pencil in front of us. Now, since Mrs. Joe is drawing on black paper, she's going to draw with a white colored pencil so you can see it. Now, you don't really need a white colored pencil or a white crayon or anything at the current moment. You'll be able to see your pencil mark because your pencil mark will be shiny against the black paper. But since I'm filming this, I want to be making extra sure that you can see what I am doing. That's why Mrs. Joe is using a white colored pencil. We are going to be drawing a pretty big leaf to take up the whole space of my paper. So what I am going to be doing first is I am going to be drawing a line from corner to corner, corner to corner. So we would call this kitty corner because they're opposites of each other. So I'm not going up to the upper corner, I'm going across my paper. So remember, you are doing this in pencil, so in case you make a boo-boo, pencils are erasable. So I'm going to be making a line that goes from corner to corner like this. Corner to corner. And it's not quite touching both corners. You can see how it's not touching that corner. It's not touching that corner. If you made them touch, that's okay. And you know what? I think I want my paper to be a little bit higher. So I'm going to lift this camera up. Hang on, wait for it, wait for it. It's going to get bumpy. It's going to get bumpy. There we go. That's better. Okay. So now that I've got my line corner to corner, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to the bottom left corner, and I'm going to scooch up my line a little bit. Not too far, just a little bit. And at this little mark, I'm going to make a little line. Okay? So I made that little line, and a leaf, what would happen is a leaf would come around and connect. We're going to just do a basic rounded leaf, easy squeezy style. But I'm going to be making sure that I try to take up most of this space. So you see that I am practicing right now. I'm trying to get close to these lines, but not touching them. So I don't want to see a little guy coming in like that. That's not going to be enough space for you. I'm going to draw my pencil mark from the line around to a point at the end. So I've got one side drawn. Then I'm going to do the other side. Cool. Whoa, you look like a leaf. Now, leaves have veins on the inside of them, and I like to make those by making the letter Y. So we're going to always make our veins coming from the center line. So what that means is I find my center line and I scooch in a little bit. When I scooch in a little bit, I'm going to make a really tall Y that almost touches the edge of my leaf. Almost, but not quite. So my Y is going to come up pretty far, and then a Y. So I've made the letter Y. Now I'm going to scooch down a bit, almost to the edge. Scooch down. This one's going to have to be a bit shorter, isn't it? There we go. And now what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be having some Y's come off of my Y's. So I'm going to turn, I'm going to go to my first one. Coming off that, I'm going to have a little Y, Y. And I don't want you to get too crazy filled with these, because what's going to happen if you get too crazy and filled with them, it's going to make the next step very hard to do, trust me. So now I'm going to go to the opposite side, and I tend to rotate my paper like that. And I can have them match up. Letter Y. So my Y's are coming from that center line again. I'm going to have this one go different. So now when I'm looking at it, it looks pretty good. Okay, I've got most of that space taken up. Now what I am going to do next is I'm going to wait a second, because Mrs. Joe is going to need to get us some glue. So once we have our glue, I want you to be watching before you start. So you should be making sure to watch. And Mrs. Joe just may wait to give out the glue until she's done showing you this little demonstration. But we're going to be using Elmer's glue to draw with next. This can be tricky, my friends. What we are going to need to do is, first of all, whenever we open the glue, we open it from the orange part. I take my fingers and I twist the orange. So look at it when it's closed. The orange cap is resting on this white thing. When I open it, it's not resting anymore, is it? It's lifted above it. And I can squeeze it gently and a little bit of glue will pop out, okay? So I don't ever want to see you opening it by holding this white cap and turning, because if you do that, that's just asking for your glue to pour out, and that's not good. We waste it then. So make sure you're doing that properly. Now when I draw with glue, I'm going to close it for a second so I can show you this. When I draw with the glue, the tip of my glue should be touching my paper. And I want to be drawing away from the glue line. I don't want to draw into it, okay? So I'm kind of pulling away from it. So I'm not lifting my glue above and squeezing. I'm taking my glue and I'm setting it down on my line and I'm gently squeezing and pulling away. The faster I go, the thinner my line is, so we don't want to go too fast. Okay, so I got one line done. I think I'm going to do all my inside before I go outside, because then it would be really bad if I started doing this and I dragged my arm through all my glue. That would not be good. Because if that happens, then I got a big old glue smear. What's really fun about this glue project is that it's going to dry. And when glue dries, it kind of dries clear. So they'll just look like black lines. So I'm being pretty careful. I'm tipping my glue so that it comes out easy, so it's not perfectly up and down. It's leaning. And you see how I lift it up and let the glue come out before I just move? So this is kind of a little bit of a slow process. You don't want too much glue, because if you get too much glue, then you get a pool. We don't want a pool. Okay, and my outside lines. Turn it. All right, almost done. See how I turn my paper so that I'm not pulling in it in a weird angle. And I'm going to make my stem a little bit thicker. Okay. Now, Mrs. Joe is going to ask and demand that you pay attention to your glue before you just put it away. You always close it. Ignore the bell. If you don't close it, then it's left open. And when it's left open, it dries and it clogs, and then we can't use it, and then Mrs. Joe's cranky. Close your glue. So this is open. It should not look like that. It should not be away. When I close it, I twist it so that's against that. Look at, no glue's coming out. Yes, I closed it. Boom, nice. Then Mrs. Joe is going to find a spot for us to put these, because it's important that they're on a flat surface. So I wouldn't tip them at all, because then your glue's going to run. And then your leaf is not going to look like a leaf anymore. So stay tuned for round 2. We got to add some fancy coloring to it. So there you go. Mrs. Joe out. Okay, so our glue has dried. And take a look at what that looks like. It's all nice and clear and kind of shiny here and there. Now we get to the fun part of adding some color to our fall leaf. So you guys, fall leaf colors, we don't have a ton to choose from. So typically in the fall time, I love seeing the fall colors. Our leaves change from various colors of green, different shades of green, to yellows and oranges, maybe some red colors in there. So we're going to be focusing on those colors today. So the thing is we're going to be using a really messy material today called chalk pastels. Chalk pastels, as I said, they're messy, guys. So when we are drawing with chalk pastels, we want to be really careful not to touch our faces, not to touch our clothes. We want to be really careful with them. And even now I'm taking off my bracelets because I'm going to get my arm through the chalk pastel and I want to be really careful. I even rolled up my sleeves, see, proof, and I'm ready to go. So guys, our leaf. This always confuses kids, but we're going to color it two different colors. One color on one side and one color on the other, on one half. So if I'm looking at my leaf, we have a line through the middle, don't we? Well, you know what? I'm going to kind of ignore that middle line. I'm going to talk about half going this way, okay? So I'm going to open up my pastels, my chalk pastels, and your box might look different than mine, but they're going to work the same. So guys, my leaf, I've got it set in front of me like me. Well, have your leaf set in front of you like I have my leaf set in front of me. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start off with the yellow. Now, we want to be really careful with this. This makes a lot of dust. When it makes a lot of dust, it's going to go all over the place if you're not careful. So we want to keep all of our color inside the lines. Okay? So look at this leaf. This is the outside area of my leaf. We are only filling in the inner part. I don't want to see any of yellow or oranges or reds coming outside. All right? So first of all, as I said earlier, we're going to color our leaf two different colors. We're going to split it in half. So I'm going to go to halfway up my leaf and I'm going to draw a line across it. Drawing my line across it. And you know what? I'm running into some veins. And so what do you see me doing? I'm drawing around the veins. Okay. So I didn't draw half of the leaf in on this side. I did it across up. I'm going to first take my chalk pastel and you see how I'm holding it? I'm using a corner to draw with right now. And I'm going to go around all my leaf veins. I'm going to basically trace around all of those veined areas. And I'm just going around, finding the spots I need to fill in, and I did half of it. I traced around all those little leaf areas, the little vein areas. I got it all done. Now I'm going to set it down, and I'm going to fill in the middle. And it's not going to take me too long. I have set it down so it's covering up a lot of space. So when I do that, all I have to do is just drag back and forth. My other hand is holding my paper down. It's not moving around. Now, got half of it all done. Excellent. Well, it's not done yet, my friends, but it's getting there. Take my yellow, I'm going to put my yellow away, and I'm going to grab a red next. The other half of my leaf, I'm going to do the same exact thing, but now I'm going to do this in red. If you really want to pick orange, you can pick orange. If you want to pick a green, you can pick a green. Those are some fall colors that I see sometimes. So, you have the option to pick orange or green, not both. So I'm only going to pick one new color. So can I pick orange, green, and yellow, and red? No, only two colors tops. So I'm tracing around those glue lines like I did before with the yellow. Got that done. Now, fill that space in. Remember, I fill it in by setting my pastel down and dragging it around. Now, we typically, whoops, I made a fingerprint there. We typically want to have our goal at level 4 coloring, but we're not going to use this the same way because it's a different material. So if I was using crayons, then we'd want it at a level 4 coloring, but we're not using crayons, we're using chalk pastel. So after I finish coloring it, this is where we do our blending. So I'm going to take one finger. Now blending is a lot of fun, but kids get way too crazy with blending. Like I said earlier, we don't want to go outside the lines, do we? We've got to stay inside these lines. It's really important that we do that. So when I blend, I'm not going to go all over like place like this. This would be scribbling. Remember, when we are coloring, we're going pretty slow. We're taking it at turtle speed. So I take one finger, and I'm going to go into my yellow first. And when you blend, you're basically bringing that chalk dust around. And look at my other hand is being really careful where I'm holding my paper down. You're bringing that chalk dust around so that it hides all my spots that I missed. And I'm not going to touch the red yet, by the way, or whatever color you have. Okay, I've got the yellow all blended, and now I can see my nice leaf veins. Now I'm going to do the red area. It might look like I'm going really fast, but I am trying to take my time when I blend. I'm going to be very careful not to go outside my lines. So this is my leaf. I don't want to go outside of my leaf. Okay, I don't want to go into my sky. Now guys, what's happening is you see yellow and you see red. We don't want to be able to see a difference between the two. So now we're going to blend between the two lines. So I'm going to take red into yellow and back. Now what color does that make? So I'm blending that line. Slow it down when I get to the edge because I don't want to get outside my lines. And I'm going to, after I've blended that line, I'm going to go up into this area. See, it's really yellow here, then it starts to get a little bit orange and then red, so I'm going to kind of blend this area a little bit too. All right. Take a look at my pretty, pretty fall leaf. You look so pretty. You're beautiful. I love you. Okay, now, my fall leaf is done. Yay. Except for I need my sky now. So we want some pretty, pretty blues. I'm going to take my dark blue. I have two different tones of blue. I've got a lighter blue and a darker blue. So I'm going to pick darker blue to begin with. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to trace along the outside of my leaf. And by the way, this hand is being really careful when I hold my paper down. I'm using what I call my claw hand. So I have my fingers up like this. I'm not setting my whole arm down. I'm gently holding it so I don't smear a bunch of that dust around. I'm going to go around the outside. Oh, you really get to see my leaf now. It's standing out. I'm even going to go to the outer edge and trace the outer edge. And then I'm going to set that down and I'm going to get a lighter blue. If you don't have a lighter blue, if you just have the darker blue, the darker will be fine. And I'm going to be really careful where I put my hand because I don't want blue to come in my leaf. And I've got some blue on my fingers, so I got to be careful. quickly color along the outside by setting my pastel down and dragging. And then I gotta be careful. Remember, we don't want to go inside of our leaf. Blending the outside very carefully. And one more step. Ooh, look at my fall leaf. You look so fancy. You're so fancy. I'm going to pick one of the colors I use on my leaf. I think I'm going to go with red because it's a bit darker. It'll show up better. And I'm going to carefully write my name on the front. Mrs. Joe. Love some fingerprints. And my leaf is done. Cleanup time is going to be a little bit busy, guys, so make sure we're following directions when we clean up. Other than that, we have to turn our picture in so Mrs. Joe can spray it so it's ready to take home. She'll explain more about that momentarily. All right, see you later. Happy fall!